Hi everybody, foXnoMad here, and today I want to help you travel smarter by sharing a recent episode of the foXnoMad podcast with you. My guest today is Chantal Patton. Her and her family, including 3 children, have been traveling for over 10 years and have visited 118 countries. They're trying to visit every country in the world. So I talked to Chantal about how they organize all of that travel, how they finance it, and talk about some of their favorite places. I hope you enjoy this episode. Chantal Patton.
There we go. Thanks so much
Got
for
it.
working across the time zones, first of all.
No problem.
It's
Yeah, it becomes really tricky when I have clients that say, does 10 a.m. work? And in my mind, I'm thinking, of course, 10 a.m. here. And then all of a sudden I have to say, no, actually, no, 5 p.m. You know what I mean? It's so weird.
I was so confused. I was like, is it Thursday or wait, it's Friday for you, but Thursday for me. And that's still, for some reason, my brain is just like, how I know how it works, but it's still kind of weird.
Confusing.
Yeah.
I know.
Cool. So now that we've finally gotten a chance to speak, I'm very curious about kind of how you travel with a family and multiple kids. Something that people say is pretty difficult to do, or probably people who haven't done it, right? Who'll say that. And you've been to over 100 countries, which is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of travel. How does that happen? How do you end up traveling to 100 countries and in New Zealand, and how does that all work?
Oof. Okay, so the first thing is maybe, I guess I'll start with, it's not easy. Like if you were to say, oh, it's just so easy, it's the honest truth is it's obviously not. It's intentional, you could say it that way. And I think the biggest key factor is the ability for all of us to be very flexible and kind of go with the flow and not have specific kind of like things in mind, like this is what's going to happen. And this, because it's always changing. And so I think the other thing that probably makes it all doable is that we've been doing it for so long that it becomes second nature. So if somebody was just starting out and pulling their kids out into the travel world and they've never done it before, it's going to be really disorienting for everybody. My daughter, even yesterday, so we have 3 kids. So they're right now 14, 17, and 19, which is crazy. And when we started, they were 5, 7, and 9. So they've gotten used to this lifestyle. It's kind of second nature. But at the same time, my daughter yesterday said, every time we switch homes, she said, I feel like I'm a different person. And I'm like, really? She goes, yeah, because your environment changes. So all of a sudden now I'm this person. And then if we stay in this house, then I've become this person. And I thought, oh, that is so weird. And then she also said she sleeps differently in different homes. And I was like, oh, how sad is that for a child to grow up for their whole life living in a house and they think that they can't sleep properly, but really it's maybe just the house and the bedroom, because she said some houses I sleep so good in and others I just can't fall asleep. And I'm like, that is so interesting. But to answer your question, we just do it. Obviously, like our work schedule is flexible and that's the key. The homeschool and the school that the girls attend is flexible. So to a certain degree. So everything becomes the ability to be living digitally and as digital nomads. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So when the kids were 5, 7, and 9, that's when you started to travel with, as a family. How did that idea come about? Were you thinking like, I want to take a trip, and then it became like 100 countries, or was it something bigger?
Yeah, no. It started off as very innocent, very small. So be careful if you're going to do it. So we started our 5-week trip to Europe, right? So first of all, like we're originally from Canada and we moved to Florida. So we were kind of already doing this kind of remote lifestyle pre actually moving, but we were in one location. So it wasn't like we were moving every week or anything like that. But we went to Europe on this 5-week trip and we thought, right, we'll take the kids out of school. It's going to be awesome. We're going to go see Italy and, do the whole Switzerland and France and Spain. And then, first of all, we didn't want to go back after that 5 weeks. So we didn't. We decided to extend into 3 months. And it kind of just evolved after that. My husband was like, let's just move to Europe. And so we're like, okay, let's do that. I have 2 passports, so Swiss and Canadian. So it makes it very open because then you can get into the whole European Union. So that's a huge benefit. And then we just decided to put our kids into school there. And it kind of like one thing led to the other. We kept taking them out of school and then doing little trips. And then once you've kind of checked off all of Europe, you're like, oh, now we can go here and now we can go there. And so it evolved into this traveling. And then we got to 80 countries. We're like, we really should do something with it. We should, come up with a business around travel and make something out of it. And then we were kind of like away from the US and that whole marketing aspect of it, that we didn't realize like how big YouTube was. And we thought, well, we can just start a travel channel on YouTube. And then we were like, well, then it's putting yourself out there. Anyway, long story short, our kids were like, we want to do this. We want to do this. We're like, okay, let's go all in. So then we started creating content for YouTube on Growing Up Without Borders. And then it's just really evolved into like, now let's get to every country in the world. Let's showcase the world. So after like 80, then it was like 100. And then now we're at 118. So it's like, I don't know. It just kind of happened.
Wow. So you started 10 years ago, right? Am I doing the math right with the kids' ages?
Yeah. That's it. Yep. We got kicked out of school, you could say, like, because originally we would take them out for like 2 months. And then we would like say we have to go on a work contract. And then all of a sudden we'd be like, oh, it's a little bit longer. So now 2 months ends up 4 months, ends up 6 months. And then obviously they were like, you can't keep doing that. So that is what pushed us into homeschooling the kids, which I never wanted to do. Just because, well, who wants that responsibility, right? I mean, educating your kids is huge. But then I started realizing like, who really cares in the long run? Like they're learning so much when they're traveling. And I often joke with my daughter, who's now 19, she's going to be going to post-secondary school, but she's kind of taking like a year off to travel, which sounds funny. And I told her, like, just tell people you're doing a master's in geography, or tell them you're doing, a master's in history, or because that's technically what she's doing. She's learning all those things. So it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah. And is her interest, I mean, does she have like an idea of which major kind of, or what to study? Is it
she wants to be she wants to do hotel management, and she actually, her long-term goal is to have properties in different countries. And then so she's thinking big because she's traveled so much. She stayed in so many hotels that she's like, I just want to do that. And she has all these ideas for her hotels, and like, so she wants to do it's a 4-year course. It's quite long, but she wants to do hotel management school. So yeah,
interesting. Yeah, hotels kind of still, like, so many of them are just so basic, even like a really nice hotel, it's like they don't seem to understand how to make them just a little bit interesting, at least from what I've seen. You can go to a really nice hotel, or like there's like crappy hotels, but like the range is like, you get bigger rooms and maybe cleaner stuff and maybe like a pool and stuff, but I feel like they could maybe there's a lot of room for creativity there potentially, especially
for digital nomads, I think, and that kind of environment. So like, because our kids, we've stayed in everything, right? Obviously, with this much travel, you go to everything, but it's really neat when we find those kind of areas that are set up for people traveling. And then, they have all the different things around that. And so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And a good internet, like that seems to be a must.
100%. Yeah. How many times, like, have you traveled and you forget to check the internet before you go? Like,
oh yeah.
Has that happened to you?
Yes. I look at the reviews for places, and I do like a control F. I look for the internet, and I look in the pictures for a desk. I need both of those things. So
100%. Yeah. We'll value a desk over anything. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I won't book a room unless it has a desk. I mean, unless it's something, short or, like special, but I'll look for the desk and the Wi-Fi, and they should have a rating system, which they don't, like on Booking or whatever, with Wi-Fi there. Like, we should have how many stars is the Wi-Fi. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah. I know. And then in some countries, it is what it is. So you just have to kind of go with the flow. But I mean, we've been to so many properties. We just came back from India not too long ago, and they would give you vouchers for 2 devices. And we're like, we need more than that. There's 5 of us, and we each have 2 devices. And then we had to like fight with them to get it. I was just like, it's the internet. Just give us more codes, But yeah, it's like crazy. So
you go to Europe first. And the question I think most people are having now is, how do you, like, how do you take your work with you on the road, and how do you finance everything? Did you switch jobs, or was it something you brought with you at first?
Yep, we wear several hats. So when we first started, and this is maybe a good thing for everyone watching to or listening to know, is always start with your end goal in mind. Like, this is the lifestyle I want to have, and then work your way backwards. And that's kind of what we did when we were first married. Tyler and I, we were like, okay, this is what we want. And on there, it was travel was one of them. And you can't have a job that's going to keep you based in one location if you want to travel. It just, unless you can wing it, that they can, let you work remotely. And so we would only take on that type of work, which meant you turn down certain opportunities, but then it opens up that ability to travel. So that's number one. So we ran online wedding planners during COVID. Kind of like stopped because there's no weddings. So that was really hard. But we wear different hats. So we help a lot of companies develop websites. So that kind of keeps us going. And then of course now our travel channel, that keeps us going. So we just wear different things we sell, and domains, and do hosting and all that kind of stuff. So everything is being done digitally, and it allows us to be able to travel and to work at the same time. So yeah.
And so is your background technical? I kind of get that. No,
not myself. No, I'm just I'm really good. I'm a people person, and so I'm the face of our company in a sense. So I talk to all the people, but we outsource our whole team, so everyone works remotely, digitally, and that's what we've been doing for the last 20 years. So I have a really good database of like strong clients that I work with, and that always come to us. And yeah, not all of them know where we are. Like, I would say 98% of them have no idea I'm working remote. They always think I'm physically there, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And when they figure it out, they actually think it's pretty cool. So that's good, but I've always wanted to keep that separation, because I don't want people to think that we're just out having fun and blah, 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 which we do a lot of, but you want to make sure that you keep that professional level between the clients and such. So yeah, that was one of my fears of putting out there that we're traveling on YouTube, is that people would then maybe not want to work with us, but so far so good. So
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I think COVID kind of did two things. One, it made companies, I think workers kind of had that idea already, but I think it forced them to go, people can work remote, right? Like, if your job is at a computer, like, whatever you're doing, then you can be remote, right? Like, for 99% of jobs where you sit in front of a computer. But I don't think a lot of people have still taken the opportunity to kind of go all in and really travel. So it's kind of this weird dichotomy, right?
Yeah, I think some have, and then some people's work have asked them to come back after they've been at home working for so long. And I kind of like, you have to maybe fight for it a little bit to be able to continue working online remote, if that's what people have as a goal. I think it would be worth fighting for, and proving that you're more productive, or, just something to, if that's an option, or negotiating, maybe like some people can negotiate, okay, well, I'm going to take 2 months and not be in the office, and allows them 2 months to travel where they want to go, especially in the winter months, right? Mm-hmm. So that could be an option too. But yeah, I think COVID's definitely changed the playing game, if you will, and schooling as well. Like, a lot of people took that opportunity to say, well, let me try and homeschool, or let me see how this whole schooling thing at home works. So it was a good testing ground, if you will. So I think it was good.
How did you find homeschooling? Like, how's your experience been with it?
Okay, so I love the idea of like sending kids off to school, just because, like, it's kind of bad to say, but like, we used to use it as like a babysitting kind of thing. Like, it's not awful, but like, it gave us the opportunity, like, oh yeah, let's go now for our coffee. And then we'd go like to the pools and we'd go have fun. When you're with your kids 24/7, it's different. It's totally different. But it gave us that freedom to be able to travel. And I love spending time with my kids, but I think it's good to have like that differentiation. So back to the homeschooling aspect of it, like, though, that responsibility of everything, it really depends. Like, if you're going to homeschool your kids and just like, not really do much, it's one thing, like definitely don't do that. But there's so much like resources that are available out there for people to tie into. There's so many things online that you can use, and a lot of it's like auto graded and auto taught to a certain degree that you don't have to as much be a teacher. And so I found those systems that worked for us, which is absolutely amazing. And so it kind of helped. And then the whole fact of traveling and seeing the world and stuff, it's just given them a whole different type of education, which most people would call it like world schooling. And so I think that kind of is far superior than what they would get in a classroom geography class, for example. So yeah, I think it kind of evolved into like, at first I was really scared and didn't, having that pressure and whatever, to like, now I just don't care. and then they also attend now an online school. And again, so like COVID changed a lot of things where they can actually tie into a school. They have teachers and classmates and stuff, but it's all remote. It's all on Zoom. And so that works out really well as well. So I think like, yeah, to answer the question, you just have to be flexible in what you're doing.
Yeah, I didn't know there were online kind of curriculums or courses. I mean, it never occurred to me that there would be such a thing.
Yeah. And like one of the school systems that we found is utilized in many schools. So actually teachers are using it, and then they've opened it up to the homeschool community, which is awesome. So then you're basically getting the same curriculum that the kids are getting in the school system. And there's a lot out there. Like there's just so much available, especially in the English language. So yeah.
Yeah. And I traveling, like you said, I think it gives you exposure to languages, cultures. I mean, and when you go to a place, like your geography, like you said, you don't forget like the capital of the wherever country, because you've been there. You've actually, there's a kind of knowledge that occurs that's different than if you haven't been to a place.
100%. Yeah. Because when you read a textbook, first of all, I don't know, I guess it depends on people's learning skills, but like to read, it's like really boring, right? Sometimes, I mean, unless you're into geography and history and stuff, but I wasn't. And then when you start traveling, you see it firsthand and you see how the people are, and you get the feeling of the culture and the smells and everything becomes alive. And it's just so much more fascinating. Then you're actually interested to know, like, how long has that temple actually been there? Like, holy, that means they built it that many years ago. Like all those things that you kind of would read in a textbook, but it doesn't really do anything. And like you said, it doesn't stick, right? Because you're just like, oh, I just kind of memorized it and that's it. But when you've been there, the capitals, like you said, and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And also too, like you hear a lot of people who haven't been to a place have very sometimes strong opinions about why it is the way it is, whatever that is. And you find that when you go there that things are either different or more complicated. They usually are both. And then so it gives you this kind of perspective of how things are connected, I think.
Yeah. And I think also like it's like really hard. Like you get a lot of fear around going to certain places because of what you see on TV, what you see broadcasted on the media. Like sometimes when an event happens, not to discard an event or anything, because obviously it's happening, but you often like have this narrow vision of like the whole country is like that, not just this one little city maybe, or big city, but so you have this fear around going to that country. And then meanwhile you get there and you're like, oh, it's not the whole country that's like that, or it's not every single person that's like that. And then it broadens your vision, or you kind of have a different understanding, and it drops that fear barrier that a lot of people have when it comes to different cultures, languages, looks, or whatever. Like people, when you grow up in an environment and that's all you see is like this kind of person, then you have a natural fear, because everything is different from you, right? But when you integrate into the culture and you're like there, you're like, everyone's just normal people living their normal lives, raising their families, eating and having fun. Like nobody, you know what I mean? So it changes your perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's almost kind of boring when you tell people that. It's like most people are just doing normal stuff. Like, around the world, most people are just kind of getting through their day, spending time with their family, eating, having fun, like you said, looking for their place in the world. It's very basic, common stuff for most people,
Yeah. And it's just in a different way, right? Like very different than what it would be like in the US and the Western world as to other countries. They just do it differently.
Yeah. That
Very
is
different.
like some people shake hands, some people bow, some people nod backwards. There's all kinds of weird
Yeah. And some people go to the
differences.
grocery store and the others go to like a little kind of food market with fish stands, and it's just done differently. Yeah.
So before you had taken this European trip, had you traveled much
Um
prior or not really internationally?
yeah, I mean, yeah, like I grew up in a family that we would travel a little bit, but like not much.
Mhm.
Because my dad is from Switzerland, we would go to Europe. And so I had a bit of that bug in me of travel. And then I lived in Europe when I was 16 to 20. And so that was awesome. And because again, things are close, like going to Italy and France and Spain and Germany, like it was just like a hop, skip, and a jump away. So I guess, yeah, I had traveled already before traveling.
So when
Definitely
you
had the travel bug.
so you get to Europe on that first trip, which is extended and extended, with your family. Where's the first place outside of Europe that you go? Or you know, do you and let me ask,
It
is
was
it
Morocco.
Morocco? Okay, I was just gonna ask, yeah,
Yeah.
is it was something nearby? And yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And
Any
then we did
reason? Yeah.
any reason? Well, we were in the south of Spain. It was close and it was a different culture. And we're like, let's go.
Mhm.
So that was awesome. And then then we did Southeast Asia. Then we did Africa. We did 10 countries in Africa. Yeah. So
And all the time working from the road, basically.
yeah. 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 And that was really interesting too, because like the very first time was my first time trying different time zones. And that was interesting. And trying to like, just like we were talking about, like the internet, you're talking like this was 2013. So things have changed since then. But for example, certain countries like France, which you would not even think of, I was using a phone number. So I have Google Voice, phoning, like dialing into Skype, and then I could just answer at any time, right? But the phone plan at that time in France blocked everything Skype for some reason, because they wanted their whatever system they're using to get all the phone calls. So as soon as you buy a package of data, it would like deplete every single thing you used. And then so that was like just little issues like that you kind of run into, and then you're like, then you fix it, and then you realize, okay, now. But that's the things that you don't realize until you get to a country, right? And then you start playing around. So, but like I said, it's probably way different right now. I'm sure there's just data only packages and eSIMs and all those things that have come out since then. So yeah.
And were the kids, were they like, yeah, this is cool, let's go, or I miss my friends, or some combination of both?
They loved it. They really loved it. I think everything was so brand new and so much fun, and they met friends. Like they were at that age where it was so easy to just meet new friends. And like the very first encounter was like this Spanish family, and I spoke a bit of Spanish already or had an understanding, but the rest of them were like nothing. And then we invited them over for dinner, and like everything, the kids were trying to speak to their kids, and like it just was fun. Everything was really fun. And then like fast forward now, they're at the ages where friends and boyfriends is starting to matter. And it's just like, oh, it's getting harder and harder, because they're like, they want that community. And when you're always moving around, you don't have it. So this is a challenge. I won't lie about that. That is becoming like, how are we going to do this? So my theory is we just like bring the boys along or something like that. They can just travel with us. My husband has a different thought on that.
and
He's
how
like,
long?
forget about it.
Yeah, he's not on board with that idea. So how long are you staying in each place? I mean, it probably varies, but is there an average more or less?
It's kind of like if we, yes. So, okay, two answers. We're trying to hit every country in the world. So, and we're trying to do it in a certain time frame, because my daughter wants to head off to school, and it seems to be like impossible what we're trying to do, but we're trying. We're going to go for it, and then we can kind of slow down. So I would say now we're going to try and speed things up a little bit. Whereas like in a typical travel, if we like a place, we just stay longer. And if we don't, then we get out faster. And then some of the countries we're going to visit, you really don't really want to maybe stay that long. So like we're going to go in and out. And then, and then after it's all done, then we get to go back to the ones that we really love. So that'll be fun. Yeah.
And what's your count? Where are you at right now?
So we're at 118,
118,
and
okay.
we have 40. Let's see, We have 43 in Africa to do. We have all the Pacific Islands, and then just like Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Japan, Korea, North Korea, and some of those. Yeah. And then we're done.
Are you using the UN list, I think it is, or do you have another list that you're using?
Yeah, the UN list. So like, for example, we won't go to Martinique because it's like part of France or Guadeloupe, you know, so we're only doing like countries, not territories. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting you're using the country count, because I'm also trying to go to every country, and I started that a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago. I suppose it's kind of a long time ago, but I found myself that now I just kind of take my time and I go back to places a lot. So I have now recently started to go, okay, I gotta start organizing and, you know, getting some countries done, like off the list. But
I know, because it's so tempting to go back to the ones that you like, right? You're like, can't we just go to Thailand and Turkey again? Like,
yeah, it's hard, and you kind of lose the sight of that goal. You know, it becomes less interesting once you've done 50 or I don't know how many countries. Like you get to a point where you're like, okay, I know I can do this. I've seen a bunch of places. Now I kind of want to go back and revisit somewhere that I didn't stay long enough in or something.
yeah, yeah. And I get so excited to go back to some of those countries, like you're saying, because yeah, it's just more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, I don't know if you guys structure your travels like this, but when I'm, you know, when I'm on the road or, you know, I have periods where I'm going through like a couple of countries at a time. And so the time in each country is pretty short, relatively speaking. And then I'll get to the end and then I'll go, oh, I want to go back to that place because that one was really cool. I wish I didn't stay as long in that place. You know, that kind of stuff starts happening. And then the count slows down.
I know. We tend to do that, or we really like, I don't want to use the word get stuck, but we kind of like, we do, we end up there and we're like, we really like it. Like, and then we all get really comfortable. And then we're like, you know, do we really want to leave? But yeah, it becomes hard.
What areas of the map you mentioned Africa? Is that the kind of the area of the map that is, you know, that you have the most countries missing off of the list?
Yeah, Africa and some of the Middle East that we still have to check off as well. So the Pacific is going to be a challenge because like the islands are further away from each other and like really expensive. It becomes expensive for the flights. So just piecing it all together, and then they only fly on certain days, and you know, some of the islands, like they're so small that you really wouldn't want to stay a whole week. You know, 2 days is sufficient because it's literally so tiny. So yeah, it's just like Europe and all these other places are so much easier, right? So we're getting into the ones that are a little bit more challenging. And we met this really cool couple when we were in Turkey way back when, like, I don't know, 2015 or something. And they were like, oh, you know, we were doing the same thing, but they gave us the advice to travel to all the hard countries first. And I feel like we did the opposite of what they told us to do. And now I'm happy we did that, but I'm at the same time, I'm like, it just becomes more and more challenging.
Yeah. I try to mix in the hard countries with some of the easier ones. But then there are these ones on the map where I'm like, that's going to be tough. It's going to be a couple of them are going to be difficult, I think. Do you have those ones left? I mean, I'm thinking of a couple of countries like Syria.
Well, like, Libya, Eritrea, Somalia, like, you know, obviously North Korea, like all these different ones. It's just like, how's this going to like happen? Or will we have enough time that maybe something will change or we can get in? Even in Afghanistan, like now people are going back, but we were just at that border with Pakistan and Afghanistan. And if we would have had a little bit more time, we would have gotten police clearance to be able to go through, but we didn't really plan it out in advance. As we tend to sometimes do. So we weren't able to get in. So we're like, oh, we were all the way there. We could have just like checked that one extra one off, but we didn't. So now we have to go back. Yeah,
it's tough because a lot of places like that I find are difficult to go to now. There was a window when I was traveling like 5 or 10 years ago where I could have gone and it would have been a lot easier. And
like Syria pre their problems would have been. And I had met people who went. They said it was amazing, and then so it becomes a little bit of a challenge, eh?
Yes, it's tough, and I imagine, you know, you're going in a group. It's even more difficult. You know, there's 5 of you, right? So it's maybe more logistically challenging.
Well, and then people are like why are you here? Like, why do you want to visit our country? You know, it becomes like, what's your purpose? And like, because when you say you're just coming for tourism, they're like, yeah, right. What are you guys actually doing? Like,
yeah, like I just imagine
like
sorry, yeah, I just like a family of 5 showing up in North Korea, and they're gonna be like, are you guys staying, or what's going on? Like, this is weird, right? Unusual.
Yeah. I know. It's really funny actually, because sometimes like the whole onward flight thing, I don't know if you've ever had issues with that, but we tend to only buy one-way flights because we don't know how long we want to stay in a country and such. And so that becomes always a challenge when you're going through, because a lot of countries want to know you're leaving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we've had it sometimes escalated to like the whatever you call them, the people, the security guys, what do you call them?
Oh yeah,
The border guys,
the border
people.
control. Yeah.
So like we've had to escalate and then like get our passports handed off to these people and then like explain like, what are you doing, you know?
Have you ever been taken
really
in an airport to one of those, like the back room in security? Like I've had that happen where they're like, we're going to question you more. So you've had that.
Yes, but sadly that was the US to Canada to US border. Okay. So this is really bad.
Yeah.
The US is the country, I'm sorry to say, but it's the one I get the most nervous about. Like, seriously, because they've detained me once and then questioned me for 3 hours over like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I'm Canadian. Like,
wow.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a long time ago. So, but I still get nervous every time I go through.
That's funny. I have in Canada, the times that I've been, they ask the most questions with the border control. They ask a lot of questions. Like it's almost, I'm like, oh, maybe they think I'm some interesting person. But no, they do that every time, and they just ask you like a ton of questions. Bizarre.
Yeah, it's getting easier in some places because now they have all these like scans and things. You just kind of put your paper through. But it's really weird. Like the countries that have given me the most hard time has either been my home country or the US. And like every other country, they just kind of like look at you. Some don't even look. They just go, stamp, here you go, and off you go. Like, you know, isn't that strange? I don't know why it's like that, but it is.
Yeah, it's always a weird question. Like, why are you visiting? It's like, well, a lot of times it's like, I want to see this place, you know. They just look at you like that's the wrong answer. Like, no, I don't know why, you know. It's like it's always a kind of a weird thing that you go through when they're like questioning why you would want to visit, and like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, and like you don't fit in the box, right? So you're not like in any checkbox for them to check off. So sometimes it's just like, you know, they'll say things like, where are you flying to next? And then you say, and then they're like, but why aren't you going back to your home? And we're like, because we're not. And they're like, well, when are you going? And I'm like, we don't know, you know. And then they start asking friends, like it's none of their business, but they want to know. And then you feel obliged to tell them. And then it throws them off. And then they're like, well, you're going to have to go speak to my supervisor. Okay.
Yeah.
It becomes really funny. And then you get really nervous because you're like, oh crap, what if I can't get in? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like a cascade effect where you're getting nervous and then you're like, I shouldn't be nervous, but yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's funny.
So, you know, it's hard to ask questions to someone who's been to so many places. I'm gonna default to the ones that I hear a lot, which are what are your favorite places, least favorite places, if you want to share, you know.
Ooh, that's kind of mean. I feel really bad when I say my least favorite, because then people are like, that's so mean, you know, because it's not about the people. It's sometimes about like the actual country, you know, and it's the government that really needs to clean up their acts. And
we'll stick to the best. Then let's stick to the best.
And then in the best, sometimes their governments are really bad, but then we just love the country. And it's like your best often, and you probably will agree, it's always about like those memories that you created there, or the people that you met, or like some cool thing that you did there. That's what becomes like that memorable experience. Then you just love that country, right? Others, it could be like you just really love the food and you really love the atmosphere, or the whatever. And then others, it could be like, so that could be for many reasons, right? But to answer your question, on the top of my list is usually, so I love many in Europe, but Switzerland and Spain, I really, really love. And then I really enjoyed being in Nicaragua. It's very different. And I just really love this one little area we were. And again, it's because of the experiences we've had. Love Mexico, New Zealand, and Uzbekistan.
Nice. That's a list of a lot of countries I haven't been to yet. So that's that. Now you've got me curious.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. There you go.
So, so you said it was specific things, memories that you had in each place.
Yeah. And like, because sometimes like you might go to a country and for another person, it might be something they really don't enjoy. But for us, we really enjoyed it. So, for example, if I pick Nicaragua, there wasn't like a proper grocery store nearby or like all those box stores that you could have. And it was a totally different way of living where, we wake up, we go to the beach, we go to the little bakery, we go to the fish market to get the food. And, like it was just like, it was so different that we really enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And we had this really cool group of people that were there that we hung out with every day. So it became like a really neat experience that we enjoyed. And then for other people, they might go there and it might be nothing like what they want or are looking for. So it's really individualized, right? When you ask somebody what their favorite country is, obviously. And then other places, it's because of the food and like the atmosphere of the people and how joyful they are. Yeah, sometimes it's the cost of living. Like if I think of Thailand. I love Thailand because everything's so cheap and you can go get a massage and you can go out for dinner and like really enjoy yourself. And there's beautiful beaches. And so now I have to say Thailand too, right? But so it just depends. Like obviously Switzerland, if you're talking about cost of living, it's the worst country to go to, but it's so beautiful. And, we won't talk about the Swiss people. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm half Swiss, but they're not like the most like open and friendly group of people, So anyway, yeah.
But super punctual. You have clean streets. The trains run on time, like to an upset, like a crazy. I have this. I'll never forget one of the first times I went to Switzerland. It was like the train. It had a sign. It was supposed to be there at like 12:34, 12:33. Yeah. I see the train pulling in, and it stops. Like it doesn't pull up to the platform, and then the clock turns 12:34, and then it pulls up to the platform. It wasn't going to be early. It was going to be right on time or not at all. And I was like, well,
that ties into the people. Like my uncle, when they are invited to any kind of event or anything, they will not show up early. So they will park along the street up above and wait and then go to the house. I'm like, are you serious? That's just the way they are. It's so different.
Yeah. I have readjusted my punctuality after spending a lot of time in Europe, especially in Germany and Scandinavia. So I'm wondering, do you, like as a family, do you guys fall into the little bit late, lot late, on time? What's your clock? How does the clock run?
When it's work related, on time, just because I've grown up that way, like, but when it's social, we say we're Spanish.
Oh, okay.
We're like, no. And it's more relaxed that way. Like just show up whenever and,
yeah,
show up late. It's all good.
There's Spanish time. And then there's the other opposite, not opposite, but at the extreme of that is like Brazilian time, where it's like, it's like 3 hours late is okay. In Spain, it's like an hour, maybe 90 minutes. Depends how far south you go in Spain,
Oh my gosh. I have such a funny story around that. So my friend, she's from Uruguay, but she lives in Switzerland and pretty much spent most of her life there. And so her friends in Uruguay will be like, just come on over. And she'll be like, but what time? And then they'll be like, oh, dude, you're way too Swiss. Like, just come over when you want. And she's like, okay, well, like in the afternoon. And then they're like, are you serious? Just show up. I'm like, okay, well, what can I bring? Just show up, okay? And they're just like, stop acting like a Swiss person, So like, it's just like, and then she said when she got there, people are just coming here an hour then, another hour up till like midnight. They just show up, they leave, She said nothing was like organized, So in her mind, she's like, this isn't a party, should be like, you come at this time, and it's just so funny.
And it's a good experience too, like as if you travel to a lot of places, to realize that the cultural clock everywhere is a little bit different. It's not the same everywhere, and that can be one of the most I guess what culture shocking things that you come across for a lot of people.
Yeah. And like you just end up adapting, I think, naturally. I don't know if you found that too, is like if you're in Spain, then all of a sudden you're eating at midnight and that becomes like your normal. And you're like, this is really crazy. And then in another country, nothing's open after 8 or 9. And then so you eat at 6, or all the whole siestas and all that kind of stuff. Like, do you find that you end up just adapting to where you are?
Yeah, I'm just like in Spain. They eat at 10 p.m. at dinner. Like it's normal. It's just like you're like, okay, I guess that's the way it's gonna work. It's you just fall into that schedule. It's the easiest way. If you try to resist it, you're not gonna win. I mean, the culture's already there, so you might as well just go with it. And siesta is kind of a great thing. I think everywhere in the world should adopt siesta. I think it is it's just like the greatest idea ever, and it seems to work. Sort of.
Apparently, but Einstein used to take lots of naps.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great endorsement for naps. Yeah, I think it's it fits the body clock. When at the time of the day when you have this sort of natural dip, and yeah.
Yeah, I know. In our kind of like a Western world, we just resort to like a coffee, right? It's like instead of like just going to take even like a 10-15 minute nap. And there's like all these really cool like meditation apps and all these, even just like on YouTube, just Google whatever. And then you listen to like even 10-15 minutes. You just feel so refreshed just by like relaxing for that little time frame. I find it really productive.
Yeah, my friends.
I do that. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, napping is great. I'm a big fan of napping. And my friends in southern Spain, they tell me the key to siesta is 20 minutes napping. That's what they said. You don't want to sleep too long, and then you're out. And you don't want to, 20
just
minutes.
It's like just right. Like relax. Yeah. And it's like naturally that's usually what I do anyway. Like I don't even set a timer. I just like, it's like I'm not like a pro napper, but I do because I'm more of a coffee drinker, but I do tend to take naps and I find it's just so effective and so good. And then you can keep going so much more than trying to resist that, oh, I'm so tired kind of feeling. Yeah, it's good. We should like make a pro nap movement.
Yeah, I think it definitely should be a thing. People in southern Spain they seem really happy, and if they're not, they're really hiding it well because they have a really nice lifestyle.
100%, I agree. Yeah.
So taking on YouTube is its own beast. It's something that I wish I had done way earlier in my travels, and I find it is a lot of work, filming and editing and all of these things. How did you decide I'm going to make a YouTube channel, and then how to focus it?
Well, because we didn't want to keep traveling, to be honest. We'll start off like, how can we write off our travels and make this like a business? Because we want to travel as our business. We want to like make travel, so we're thinking of apps and what can we create and what can we do and blah, blah, blah. And then, so one was like I said, we didn't realize how big YouTube was until we started like looking at that. And then our kids, they were just all over YouTube, watching YouTube videos. And we kept seeing all these other people. We're like, oh, we could easily do that. Like we have the ability to, I mean, we weren't into video editing like we are now, but we could outsource it in the beginning till we learned what we were doing and like, some of those things. And then, but yeah, so it, like you said, it's its own beast because it's like non-stop work. There's so much more involved than what we or maybe thought was involved. But now that everything's rolling and going, it's become so much more fun than my traditional work that I love it. And then it gives us purpose, right? When you're out there, you're going to like, share what you're experiencing in different places and it becomes fun. And yeah. So what was your question though about it? Like, how did it evolve into it? Or
yeah, I guess, I mean, I can kind of break it down a little bit easier. Like, how does a video shoot look like from, the idea to it getting uploaded? What's the process?
Well, because yeah, so I wish we were more like, I wish I could tell you that I'm like such a good storyteller and then we like have it all planned out and whatever, because that's what we're working towards. Okay. So maybe they'll be getting better as we go. But ideally, like we're going to a city, right? So we go to Kochi in India, or we go to Munnar in India, and we know that we're going to be there. So we always will research some of the fun things to do and see basically in that area, because we don't want to make our videos just, kind of boring, right? So you want to showcase some of the fun things to see and do. So often it's about that. We kind of pre-research it a little bit, and then we get to those places, we film them, and it's just our own experience there. So sometimes we have like cool talking points. Other times we have like a driver that'll help us and tell us the cool talking points to share. And then, so we film it, and from our perspective, and then comes the video editing, and that's like the biggest chunk. Then the other thing is like we're backlogged on our video production, so like we could easily be pumping out one a day, like easily, but we only post one a week at the moment just because of how much work goes into making a video. So yeah, like there's the whole production, right? So getting all the footage, and we film on different devices. We try to keep it simple, but we do film a lot, and then you want to find the right music, and then I don't know, all of that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll leave a link to the YouTube channel so people can check it out and
go
watch
check
your
it.
videos.
It's called Growing Up Without Borders. Yeah, you have to go check it out. Yeah, it's really taking off nicely.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work to make a video, especially when you're traveling, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like you can go to a restaurant or you can go to an event or a place, but you don't really know what's going to happen. And then you've got to film enough to where you can make that into some kind of story that you're going to edit. And then the editing takes a bunch of time. And then uploading it, depending on where you are,
the speed and and then like hard drives, like when you're traveling, we should have those hard drives that are without the little needle, that goes around or whatever. But most of my hard drives aren't like that. And so we back it up to the cloud so that there's double backup. But I've had like 3 hard drives, like just flop on me. And then it's just like the once it wasn't actually backed up yet because we didn't do it. And so we've learned the hard way. But yeah, that's like all those key things. And then having enough internet to be able to back it all up, right? And of course the cameras are getting better and better. So then your quality's better, which takes us more space and like, but yeah, it's all part of the process, right?
Yeah. There's definitely a progression you can see in a lot of YouTube channels, especially from the beginning where people are nervous on camera and then they get more comfortable and then they get more enthusiastic because you want to be more upbeat on camera and so on, and then the quality gets a little bit better too. You notice
totally. That's happened with us, and then soon, like hopefully we'll be like really cool storytellers. Obviously we watch other YouTube people and like, man, are they ever good? Like obviously they've planned it all out and like they're following a script and it's just so well like presented that I'm like, that's who I want to become, like, so I just got to upper your game, right? And learn how to be a storyteller, I guess, or learn how to like script something, so yeah, but it's all self-taught. So
yeah, it just takes repetition, just practice, and just making video after video. Because even if you go back like a year, you probably look at your videos and like, oh god, that was terrible, and then you look at now, you're like, that was a great one, and then a year later, you look back. What kind of equipment are you using? What cameras or microphones?
Yeah, so we're just using like a Rode mic on a GoPro, usually with a media mod. We have a Canon when we're just like doing still, but because we're moving all the time, I don't want to carry something heavy. Like my purse is heavy enough when we're on the go all the time. So we literally try to keep it to a minimal amount. We should be filming with a professional Canon camera like I'm using right now to do this meeting, but we don't because it's too heavy and I don't want to carry it around. And I also like to be inconspicuous. So we're not like the typical vloggers that have like the big camera and the big mic and whatever. I don't like having a crowd that's like, what are you guys doing? So I like to be like kind of like nonchalantly filming and everything like that. And maybe I'll change eventually, but for now that's what we do. And then we just use our phones. So we just film B-roll sometimes with a phone and a gimbal, keep it super simple. And I just started trying the Insta360, which is really cool. That kind of does like the really cool 360 shots. So yeah, just a little bit of everything depending on where we are. And it's interesting because like with my Rode mic that I'm using, it actually started breaking. And when we were traveling, I couldn't find a reseller for Rode. And so I did so many videos just with the media mod, and I'm really nervous to edit those because I'm like, oh crap, it's going to be like, maybe bad audio. So hopefully people will like forgive us for that. But it wasn't until, and we did a lot of the Caribbean, and it wasn't until we were in Barbados and I went to like a same store that Rihanna shops at for her equipment. I'm like, oh, they have it. And they did. So that was cool.
Cool. Yeah. I started using the X3, the Insta360, and I've used my GoPro like twice since. It's taken over. I mean, it's so versatile. You can just have it running and it's very inconspicuous because you can just leave it running all the time and focus on in the editing what you want to focus on.
Wow. But what about the audio? Are you finding it good?
Yeah, honestly, I find the microphone better than the GoPro microphone if it's close enough to you. So, when you extend it out, it's not picking up the greatest audio, but it's pretty good. It's surprisingly good, I find, because like it doesn't really have any. I have it somewhere here, but it doesn't really have like a noticeable, microphone like slot that a big one or anything like that. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's great.
Cool. Yeah, because like I just put the mic on to the media mod, so then I know I have a good mic. But okay, I'm gonna try it more and use it.
Yeah.
I just got mine not too long ago, so it's really cool.
Cool. So where's next? So you're in New Zealand now. Where's the next
Okay,
destination?
so we are going to be going to the Pacific Islands. And then after that, we're trying to hop back through towards Europe to get into Japan and probably Korea. And we want to get to Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Jordan, Saudi, kind of all that. And then we're going to be in Europe, and then we're going to hit Africa. So that is the plan.
Is that for
which can change
like a year plan or 6 month? I'm just okay.
Yep.
About a year.
So like last year we did 30 countries, 20, I think we're new, but we hit up 30, which is pretty amazing. Like we're actually really surprised about how much we were able to do, because it was just like coming out of COVID. We're all like getting our feet wet again. We're like, can we really do this? So we left in April. We got stuck in New Zealand, by the way, during COVID. So we spent like 2 years here. It was amazing. And then, yeah, it's cool. So then from April till January, like that's what we did. That was weird.
Yeah, super weird.
Just when you started saying it glitches. Oh my gosh, it was really weird.
It always picks a time to glitch. I'll just mention that when I do the intro for the show. Yeah, so cool. So it sounds like you've got a great plan, that you've got a good pace as well. And you're going to do this, all 5 of you. I think that is it's really impressive. It's a really impressive amount of travel, and to be able to coordinate with
oh my gosh,
kids of different ages.
Yeah, it's so much work. I won't obviously it comes at a price, right? So to organize it all, to actually like plan it all out and figure it all out, there's a lot of back end that gets put into it that people don't realize, especially if you have a vlog. They think, oh, you're just out there, having fun, whatever. But like to make that all happen, like obviously we spent a lot of hours figuring it all out. And then, so we're just pretty nonstop, right?
Yeah.
Pretty intense. Yeah.
It's either you're drafting a video, filming a video, or editing a video, right? Like that's kind of how YouTube works.
Yep. 100%.
So is YouTube the best place for people to find you? Anywhere else that they should go check out?
Definitely. So we were shut down from Instagram for a while, but we're back. They shut us down for 10 months, but we're back. So Growing Up Without Borders, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, but we definitely see the comments on YouTube, and we see Instagram as well. So those are like the predominant ones. And TikTok, the girls do a lot of TikToks now as well. So that's more for just fun, silly things. But yeah, everything Growing Up Without Borders. So
cool. And I'll leave links to everywhere people can find you in the show notes. And happy and safe travels.
Thanks for watching this episode of the foXnoMad podcast. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. I'll have new videos for you every week, and I will see you in the next video.